If someone were to ask you, what's the Batman Arkham franchise about, a lot of people would say the Batman and the Joker, and that's historically what Batman's been about in general. However, the Batman Arkham series has received a lot of criticism because of the fact that it's mostly centered around the Batman and Joker and oftentimes takes away from what other villains have to offer. But then on the other hand, you get other people who do enjoy seeing the Batman and Joker relationship and they realize that that's what these games are meant to be all about, is the entire Batman and Joker relationship. So it's kind of a controversial question of, was the Joker overused? Well, today I'm going to be giving a couple reasons as to why he was overused and a couple as to why he wasn't overused. And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe for more content, and let's get into the video. So I'm going to start this off from the standpoint that he was overused, why people may believe he was overused throughout the course of this franchise. And to start off with, I don't think anybody had any issues with him being in Arkham Asylum or even Arkham City, I think was fine. But when we got to Batman Arkham Origins and the marketing suggested that it was going to be Black Mask who was the main villain, I think people were kind of excited for a fresh face. People were excited for something new and something different. And in this case, it was starting off that way. It appeared to be Black Mask throughout the first, half of the game, until all of a sudden we find out that it's actually the Joker who's been running the Black Mask's operation this entire time. And I think that kind of ticked a lot of people off. However, in hindsight, I think it was kind of obvious that it would have been the Joker, considering it was Batman Arkham Origins, right? So that means it takes place before Joker died in Batman Arkham City. So it makes it seem kind of obvious that WB would have gone down the route of the Joker, especially considering the fact that it was the first time that they had ever written a game. So I think in hindsight, it was kind of obvious that that the Joker would have been featured. When I say the first time I've ever written a game, first time writing a Batman game, excuse me. But then we go into Batman Arkham Knight. Joker is dead. It takes place after the events of Batman Arkham City. And at this point, it's kind of advertised that we're getting this new character, right? We're getting the Arkham Knight, this new villain. And, Scarecrow's going to be in the game, all well and good. And then the Joker comes back, but this time, he's more of a figment of your imagination. He's not really there. Now, let me preface this by saying, though, it is not Mark Hamill's fault at all. This guy was an amazing voice actor. He put in a tremendous effort each and every time he stepped up to play the role of the Joker. It has nothing to do with Mark Hamill or him personally or anything like that. It's more to do with the fact of just Joker's character being in this game. It kind of rubbed people the wrong way, especially with Batman Arkham Knight kind of rubbing people wrong in multiple different ways, right? Like the Joker's inclusion. A lot of people believe that the Batmobile was overused. They just didn't like the overall story, the overall writing. Scarecrow kind of took a backseat to the Arkham Knight, who turned out to be Jason Todd. A lot of people didn't like that. So there was already a lot of reasons for people to kind of dislike Arkham Knight to begin with. So adding the Joker on top of everything else, repetitive side missions, anything else that you could think of, I think a lot of people kind of just took that with a massive grain of salt. They kind of took it like a slap in the face, and because of the fact that Rocksteady and WB both understand the Joker could be a selling point to these games, I think that's part of the reason why he was so included. And the only reason why Mark Hamill did this Batman Arkham Knight gig was because he wanted to sing a song. That was his one condition. And on top of that, the Joker is included in a DLC, A Matter of Family, in Batman Arkham Knight, which actually I think is the best way to include a character that people may not want to see. Because if you don't want to see him, you don't have to buy the DLC, you don't have to play that, but it's optional for those who want to play it. I think that is a really good idea to incorporate instead of forcing you to interact with them throughout the course of the story. But then another thing to add is I think people might have believed he was overused, even if you include Batman Arkham City, because of the fact that he took away from the main spotlight which other villains were supposed to hold, right? For instance, in Batman Arkham City, the main antagonist is Hugo Strange, right? Protocol 10, he's trying to essentially eliminate the entire, city of Arkham. He's trying to get rid of these criminals. And that's a really cool story to go by, but unfortunately the Joker takes the front and center stage when he poisons Batman and he has to go chasing around to cure the entire game. And the only reason why I think that was a thing was essentially to fill in time for the plot to allow Hugo Strange's plan to kind of take into effect. So by the time that we're done with the Joker thing, for the most part at least, by the time we're kind of done chasing the cure around, Protocol 10 starts, and then we go back to Joker after Protocol 10. So we're not even fully finished with it by the time that we're done with Hugo Strange. But I think a lot of people probably dislike the fact that it felt like more of a Goose Chase story and that the Joker was front and center as opposed to it being a Hugo Strange story. Or even in Batman Arkham Knight, when you take a look at the Arkham Knight, put aside the fact that you may not like the fact that it's Jason Todd or whatever. He still doesn't get the full front and center of attention, because the Joker's here, right? The Joker is here, and Joker's really good in this game. I like the way he was used in the game. I thought he was really funny, really witty. He was kind of comedic relief at times. But he still kind of took away from Scarecrow and the Arkham Knight, who was front and center stage. It was kind of like Joker was in front, and then right behind it was the Arkham Knight, and then way in the back was Scarecrow. Like, Scarecrow was barely even a thought in this game, it felt like. It kind of felt like he was like that middle child, the kid who's just forgotten about all the time. However, there are some people who would make the argument that he was not overused, that the Joker was actually utilized the perfect amount, because this entire franchise is surrounded by the Batman and Joker's relationship, right? That's how we started it off in Batman Arkham Asylum. This whole game is literally about those two. I mean, sure, there are other villains in the game. You know, there's Killer Croc, you got freaking Frank Bowles, there are a couple other villains, Bane, Harley Quinn, you got other villains in the game. But none of them take close to front and center stage the way that the Joker does. These ones are very much side villains, as they are meant to be. Whereas Joker, front and center, gets all the attention, and that's exactly how this game was meant to be. It was just a Batman and Joker relationship focus. And this game has a lot of high praise, and still does to this very day, and still does have a very good story. Batman Arkham City, kind of a similar concept, except he wasn't meant to be front and center like I had mentioned earlier. However, it is still a good representation of the Batman and Joker's relationship. You can kind of tell that Joker just does what he does for the laugh of it. He's not necessarily premeditating the stuff he does. He just does what he feels like. And Batman kind of has to try to figure out that puzzle and solve it. But once he dies, then we get him in Batman Arkham Origins. And this is where we believe, or at least I personally believe, that this was the best Batman and Joker relationship that we got ever. Because, in the Arkham franchise at least. Because it was just an amazing origin story. I thought that the Joker's introduction was done very well. Despite how I may feel about Joker being in the game and us kind of having false marketing claims, whatever. But we did still find him extremely enjoyable in that game, in that we did build our foundation as to why the Joker is so obsessed with Batman. We built a relationship as to why Batman has this weird, like, there's something different about this Joker guy. He's weirdly obsessed with Joker as well, but he's not willing to admit it, but there's something about him that he just wants to keep chasing him. He wants to hurt him. He wants to pummel him. You know, he's like that little brother that you just want to beat up all the time. And I think it creates a very good, authentic story. I think it creates for very good storytelling. And it's very easy to write a story around these two because they're yin and yang, they're Tom and Jerry, it's cat and mouse, where they just, one chases the other all day long. And also, if you think about it, Joker is just a very iconic villain. Everybody knows who the Joker is, right? Batman and Joker, they're an iconic duo, and even if they're not allies, they are enemies. At the same time, there's almost like a love there that they have for each other. Not like romantic, but it's almost like they're attached. They can't go without one another, and that's why Batman becomes so depressed in Harley Quinn's Revenge. And if we're just gonna be honest with each other, Batman and Joker just sells, right? It just does. It sells movie tickets, it sells games, it sells comic books, it sells action figures, it sells everything, right? If a game didn't contain the Joker in it in any sort of way, I don't think the sales would do as good. Now, don't get me wrong, Batman Arkham games could have done well without the Joker in them. But a lot of people who are particularly casual fans of Batman, people who aren't super hardcore and know all the lore on Batman, they're going to look at that and go, who's Hugo Strange? Ooh, Batman and the Penguin? Who's that? Like, I don't think people are really going to care to buy a game. I don't think the sales would be as good unless the Joker was in it. And, like, that's just it. You just got to call a spade there. And the other thing to consider as well is that every time Joker and Batman are in a game together in some sort of capacity, the game is very, very good in at least that light. The Batman and Joker relationship is always going to be something special, and I think that regardless of which Batman Arkham game you play, you're going to have a very good relationship between these two and make it at least somewhat enjoyable and entertaining. There are at least going to be some positive aspects of it. So guys, answer the question for me down in the comments below. Was Joker overused in the Batman Arkham franchise? Why or why not? Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe for more content. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!